Hey everybody, welcome back. I am bored. COVID made me bored, and today at the table I am taking a look at and playing Terminator Dark Fate, the card game. This is a deck building game with the Terminator theme using, I guess, the content or pictures from the Dark Fate movie. Now, I think there are a lot of people out there that probably were not a fan of this movie. I think it was a direct sequel to Terminator 2 Judgment Day, as it does have Sarah Connor and the original Terminator back in this movie somehow. And I'm not here for spoilers, but obviously, because this is a direct sequel, Skynet never came through because Sarah and John and the Guardian, or the Terminator, stopped that from happening and prevented Skynet from actually coming to fruition, right? But in this story, obviously, instead of Skynet, another AI has come up from the ground, and I believe it's called Legion, and has created a more advanced line of Terminator, sending it back to a time period where there is another female who potentially could lead a future resistance against this new AI system called Legion. And I believe that that character, her name is Dani Ramos. And so it sort of continues the story in sort of a reboot / sequel. So now Sarah, Dani, and a few other protagonists are out to prevent this new Terminator called a Rev-9 from killing Dani, who's supposed to lead the next resistance down the road in the future to stop Legion from ever happening. So again, rinse and repeat. I think they can do this a lot for the Terminator series. So let's just ignore the movie on its own, but just the fact that it is a Terminator-based game. I do have another game that I did purchase, which has a Terminator theme. It's the Terminator Rise of the Resistance board game, which I really enjoy, and I do have a couple videos on that, with hopefully expanding to a full series campaign that I can show you guys. But this is also published by Riverhorse Games, the same company that produced Rise of the Resistance, and it is a deck building game. So in my search for some solo games that I thought would be a little deviation from my 1v1 PvP type head-to-head combat card games and my handful of deck building games, I thought I could try something different. But in the end, I ended up stumbling across this when I was looking to purchase Rise of the Resistance. So I thought, I don't really need another deck builder. But there was a little bit of variation, and I thought, the price was all right for me. It was relatively inexpensive, and I thought I just get it. Just why not add to the collection? So there is some unique differences between this and the other deck builders I do have, which is DC deck building, Legendary, and NHL deck building. I don't really have any other ones like Ascension or Dominion, so I don't really have a point of reference from them. So maybe they do have mechanics in those games that's implemented in this game. I do not know. But in any case, it has a couple unique variations that I thought was pretty neat. The box that it comes in, it's pretty nice. It actually is a nice magnetic fold-out box. You actually have the rule and turn summary right here with a spot to hold the cards. It's actually not too bad. It comes with a bunch of cards, which are your fate cards, which is comprises your main deck. You've got wound cards, which is equivalent to your weakness cards in DC deck building. You've got character cards, and you have your enemy card, which is the Rev-9 in this case. The Rev-9 is kind of unique in this movie series. He is actually a combination of sort of the T-1000 and the T-800. So he has an endoskeleton, and he also has a liquid metal overlay. And he can actually function as two separate Terminators. So one that's the endo, and the other one that's the liquid T-1000 type Terminator. And he can also combine, which when he is combined makes him extra powerful. So he has the best of both worlds and very little weaknesses in between. So it was an interesting concept, I guess, for them to create this new Terminator. And he is part of this game. He is the villain that you're up against and that you are trying to take down. So this game comes with several components. You'll have your character cards based on the movie. So here we have Grace, and typically you do have a unique ability and something that's different compared to other deck builders I have, which is a starting card, and I'll explain that in just a minute. You've got Carl, who is, we know, the T-800 that was protecting John. And here is Dani Ramos. She is the person that the Rev-9 is coming after and trying to destroy to prevent the future from happening, where she stops the rise of Legion. And she also has a starting card. And you've got Sarah Connor, who has an ability with a starting card as well. And what's unique about this is the starting cards. So you will have your typical cards. The setbacks are the equivalent of your vulnerability cards in DC. They don't do anything. They provide you nothing. And you also have prep cards that you have in the deck, which provides you at least one resource. And just give me a second while I just grab that card. Right here are the prep cards, and this provides you with this symbol, which is a supply symbol, and this is the currency in which you will be using to purchase new cards from the resource row or the reserve row. And for every player, they'll be given 5 prep cards and 4 setback cards. And if you're counting, that's 9. So what's interesting about this game is you actually have a character-specific card. And I thought that that is actually kind of unique. So right here, you'll see we've got a special card called Resolve, and that only applies if you're playing Dani. You've got one for Grace. Grace is in this movie called an augment. She is actually like a sort of bionic commando. She's half human with cybernetically enhanced parts. So she's basically RoboCop. And she has this starter card if you choose her. And you'll notice that for her, she has 2 different types of resource symbols right here. And these are fight symbols, or this is what provides you ammunition or the ability to do attacks. So just like Legendary, you have sort of a currency for purchasing cards, and you have a different currency for doing attacks on villains and the mastermind. So this is the very same mechanic here. We've got one for the T-800 Carl with a special ability, and one for Sarah as well. And you'll see for her, you actually destroy this card if you use it. So in addition to the 9 cards that you get, comprised of your setback and prep cards, you will have 1 character card that goes in there. And I thought that's actually kind of unique. So not only does your character card have an ability, but you also get one special card in your hand to begin with that provides a unique ability as well. In your main deck, you will have several different cards of different types and of different costs. So here you'll see we've got a resource card, and it's depicted at the bottom. The bottom right tells you how much supply resources that you need when you play your cards in order to purchase this particular card. And you would gain on your turn, if you were to play this card, you would gain whatever symbols here, whether supply or fight. As far as I know, there is no combination, so it's not like you can have a card that has both supply and fight on the same card. You've got an action card, and usually there's a subtype. In this case, it's leadership. And it's typically a one-time use or a one-time effect that can take place that you can use. And again, the resource cost would be at the bottom here. In this case, it just so happens to be 0. You've got a skill card, which is a card, when you play it, it's sort of perpetual. It stays on the game board or on the play field, providing you some kind of boost or ability that can help you through the game. And again, you'll have that ability text as well as the cost to purchase that card. And I think I'm missing one, which should be a location card. This one is a munitions card, and usually munition is either some ability to enhance weapon cards that you have, or it could be a weapon itself. In this situation, it would provide a certain amount of fight, certain ability text, and a certain cost on the bottom right. Some cards, or skill cards, depending on what you have, may make reference to the subtype. So it may say if you have a grenade card or a munitions grenade card, then you might be able to have this effect. So that is this type of card. And then you have what's called the hostile card. The hostile card is what goes in the deck, and when it comes out into the reserve line or the resource line, as long as it's still there, when the Rev-9 appears, it will be using this as part of his attack, and it'll make more sense as I play it. The bottom right is the amount of fight or attack that you need to have played using your cards to defeat or cancel this card. And what's interesting about this game is hostile cards don't get defeated or eliminated from the game. They actually get recycled to the bottom of the main deck. And that is also something that's different about this game compared to other deck builders. Eventually, you will have a bottom stack full of hostile cards. And when they appear, it'll be bad news for you if you even get to that point. And one other card that I forgot to bring out is a location card. And location cards, again, usually provide some kind of ability, but they're kind of unique. They're kind of special in the sense that there's only a handful of ways that you can destroy the Rev-9. Having the right location card is one of those ways. Now, location cards aren't cards that you actually obtain into your hand. You would use, if you pay the cost, which in this case is 4, you would use the effect, and then right away the location card gets put at the bottom of the main deck. So it acts a little bit differently because it will be recycled and could potentially reappear in the resource row or the reserve row. So those are the types of cards that you have in your main deck. And the other type of card that we have are your typical wound cards. So just like Legendary, these would be your wound cards or weakness cards in DC deck building. And these would go immediately into your discard pile. If there was a circumstance where you gained a wound, it would go into your discard pile. Now, when you draw your hand of 5 at the beginning of your turn, if you have 3 wound cards in your hand at the time of drawing them, you're dead. You're immediately dead and the game is over. Now, there are alternate rules where if you're playing with multiple people, it's sort of elimination. If you get killed, if you draw 3 wound cards in your hand, you're dead and play continues with whoever else is remaining, or you die as a team. First person to die, everybody loses. So you would have your wound stack right there. And the last piece is the Rev-9 cards. There are 4 different Rev-9 cards, and each one has a particular strength and stagger value, as well as a hunt value and certain abilities. And typically it is sort of the weakest to strongest. And at the beginning of your game, you will choose how difficult you want the game to be. So you'd start off with maybe the easier version of the Rev-9 so that you can sort of get the flow of the game. And as you start to improve on your strategy and tactics, you can include a harder version of the Rev-9. So this one, which is the Damage Endo, is the recommended starting Rev-9. He has a stagger value of 5, so that means he takes 5 damage for him to be staggered. And when he's staggered, that typically means there is some kind of effect that can take place or a card that takes place when you have staggered the Rev-9. In this situation, the text here says that if this Rev-9 takes 15 damage, it's destroyed. So that's one of the conditions on the card only that would destroy this particular version of the Rev-9. At the bottom left is what's called the hunt value, and this is the number of cards in the reserve row or the resource row in terms of hostile cards that activate on the Rev-9's hunt phase, and I'll explain that in a minute. If there aren't enough hostile cards in the reserve phase, you would burn cards from the main deck. That is any cards that are not hostile or location cards, because you can't burn those ones. So as I play through, it'll make more sense. And then you have the different levels. This is fully operational. He has a stagger value of 10. This particular one can't be destroyed, so I think this is the most powerful one. You've got one here that's a stagger value of 15, and it says while the Rev-9 is staggered, increase its hunt value by 2. So that would be the hunt value over here. And you've got the liquid endoskeleton, which has, again, different ability and different stagger and hunt values. So in the end, you would choose one of these to include in your main deck. So I'm going to go through sort of the initial setup. One other piece I forgot to include is this game comes with tokens for some reason to keep track of damage on the Rev-9 and hostile cards. So the single red tokens represent 1 damage, and the black ones represent 5. So this is how you would keep track. I don't think it's necessary, but it's actually nice that they included this. Kind of sort of improves the quality value of this game. The actual card quality overall is pretty thin. I wouldn't consider this anything great, not like DC or Legendary. Actually, it's slightly better than what I got with the Rise of the Resistance board game, so I actually wish it was more like this. So that is basically the components of the game. I'm going to do a quick setup, and I'll walk you through a gameplay of the Terminator Dark Fate deck building game. Okay, so I've got my table ready and set up for my playthrough of Terminator Dark Fate, the deck building game. I've got my wound stack over here. I've got my main deck that I've shuffled right over here. I will be playing with Sarah Connor. Now, the rules in the rule book say if you're going to be playing solo, you would take 2 character cards and you would have 2 abilities available to you, but on your turn, you would declare which character you're going to use so that you can take that benefit of their ability. So it's not like you could have 2 of their 2 abilities simultaneously during that one turn. I kind of think that's a little silly. So for me, I'm just going straight with 1 player, 1 hand up against the Rev-9. I've decided to go with the damaged endo, which is if this Rev-9 is staggered, you must flee. I'll explain what flee is during the hunt phase. If this Rev-9 takes 15 damage, it is destroyed. It has a stagger value of 5 hits and a hunt value of 4. So in terms of the turn sequence, at the beginning, every player will choose a character. You will take your 10 cards, 5 cards of your prep, which provides the 1 supply, and 4 setback, and then 1 card that is unique to your player. And you'll give it a shuffle, and you'll have that ready, and you'll start with a hand of 5. Then you will have a couple options. Your first option is to play your cards, obviously. You want to play your cards to gain either resources or firepower or fight power to attack hostile cards or the Rev-9, or use the supply values that you earned to purchase cards from the reserve row. Or your other option is to rest, which allows you to destroy 1 card from your hand. So this is something that's a little different than other deck builders I played, where you typically need a card that provides you that ability to destroy a card. But you can intentionally take a rest, and let's say you have a wound in your hand or there's a starter card that you don't want, you can actually take a rest to actually destroy one of those cards from your deck. So I think that's kind of neat. And then once you've done that, you would redraw up to your hand of 5 and you move into the reserve phase. In the reserve phase, you would basically ensure that there's at least a minimum of 4 cards in the reserve, and then you would add 1 more. So even if you had 5, you would still always add at least 1 card to the reserve lineup. At any time, if this Rev-9 shows up, you immediately stop the reserve phase, and I'll show you how he shows up in just a minute. That would immediately stop the reserve phase and then move on to the next phase, which is the hunt phase. So if the Rev-9 hasn't shown up, then you're fine. You actually skip this phase, because he hasn't found you and you haven't found him. If he does show up, or if you purposely find him, then he's on the hunt. And you have 2 choices at that point. The first choice is to confront him. If you have enough fight, you would confront him and try to damage him, or he would damage you. Your other choice is to flee. If he is staggered or damaged, you can choose to flee and run away from him. So something about this game which I think is interesting is there is this sense of, you know, he's coming and you're hoping to either be prepared or gather resources or buy some time so that you can do one of those 2 to build up your arsenal in preparation to face him. And then once the Rev-9 attacks you, he would then stay out here until you have that opportunity or that choice to flee from him. It makes more sense as I play it. I find that the steps are a bit more cumbersome to keep track of than your typical deck builder, but I do like this variation. I think it is a little bit neater. So the first thing we'll do in terms of the setup, which I wanted to show you, was we've chosen our Rev-9, which version we want to use. We're going to immediately put 5 cards out into the reserve. Okay. Oops. Okay, and that is step 1 of this initial setup. The next part would be to take the Rev-9. You take the first 5 cards in your deck, in the main deck. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're going to shuffle him in this set. And this guarantees that within somewhere in the first 6 turns, he will be showing up. And this will always continue to happen at some point. When you flee, you will also be doing the same thing. So he will always be at least within the first 10 cards or possibly first 20 cards, depending on how much damage you've done to him, and it'll make sense as I go along, that you know he's coming. And I think I like that. I like the fact that there's that bit of tension. You don't know if he's going to be the next card that comes up. Okay, so once you've done that, you're ready to go. And you'll see here I've got a couple action cards. I've got a couple resources on the board on my resource row or the reserve row that I can use. Sarah's special ability is that she, for munitions, it costs 1 less per turn. So that's kind of useful if she's needing to purchase high cost munition cards. So I'm going to draw 5 from my deck. And right now it would be my play phase. And I do have the option to take a rest if I don't want to buy anything, and I can destroy a card from my hand. So right now I have only 2 prep cards, which provides me 2 supply, and 3 setback cards, which basically does me nothing. So I think what I'll do is I'll spend the 2 resources. I'll just use 1 to buy this close call. It doesn't provide me anything, but it does act as a defense card. And this defense card allows me to destroy this card and draw a card to avoid an attack from the Rev-9. So I'm just going to include that into my discard pile. And then I'm going to draw up to my hand, which is 5. And now we move into the reserve phase. So right now, we first check, do we have at least 4 cards in the reserve row? We do. Had I purchased another one, I would have to flip 1 card over from the main deck, so I at least have 4. And now, as the second part of this phase, I do add another card into the deck. Of course, perfect example. The Rev-9 has showed up. He does not go into the reserve because you're not going to purchase him. In fact, you can just put him at the top to remind you that he is out there. He has shown up, so we immediately stop. Now, let's just say if he did not show up. If he didn't show up, I would draw another card. And at this stage, I would have 5 cards in the reserve. And I do have an option at this point to continue drawing cards until I choose to stop or until the Rev-9 shows up. You're probably wondering, well, why would you do that? Why would you continue to draw cards? Because later in the game, if you feel that you're powerful enough, you may want to face him. So the hunt is reversed. You are hunting him as opposed to he is hunting you. So I like that. That's kind of an interesting twist. But in this situation, I have drawn the Rev-9, and so he's up. So I immediately stop the reserve phase. And I now move into the hunt phase. The hunt phase does happen because he's shown up. He's looking right at me, and he's saying, I'm going to hunt you down and eat you alive. So what happens during the hunt phase is if there were any hostile cards in the reserve, he would activate them 1 at a time. And typically those cards would wound you, and I would be taking wounds into my discard pile. But as you can see, I do not have any wounds or any hostile cards in the reserve. So that's easy, right? Oh, this is an easy game. Nope, what he does now is he would now, based on his hunt value, which in this case is 4, he now will burn up to 4 cards from the main deck as long as they are not hostile cards or location cards. If they're hostile cards, he actually activates them. If they're location cards, they go at the bottom of the discard. The bottom of the main deck. So the first card here is a resource. So that gets burned and it no longer is in play or cannot be played. We have a hostile attack. So this one is wound the current player. He would activate this one, and I take a wound into my discard pile. So this doesn't get destroyed or burned or discarded. It actually goes to the bottom of the main deck. So another interesting piece about this is that the Rev-9 is actually doing his own deck building, I guess you can call it. He's burning cards from the main deck, and any of the hostile cards eventually will start stacking at the bottom, and eventually he will have this very strong, powerful hostile deck to face you with. So I actually like that as well. It's very interesting. So the third card, it's another hostile attack. So I'm going to wound, and I take another wound into my discard pile. This is not a good start. And the hostile card goes into the bottom of the main deck. And this last one is a resource, which gets destroyed. So that's it. So now I have 2 wounds in my discard pile. And one of the, well, the one and only lost condition in this is if you pull 3 cards that are wounds in your hand, you are dead. So that's it. No additional cards will come out in the reserve. The Rev-9 is still sitting there looking at you while you try to figure out what you want to do. So that's the end of the turn, and then play would pass to the next player on your right, and they would go through the 4 phases as well. But since I'm doing solo, it comes back to me. I'm going to take a look here, and I do have Sarah's special card, which is if I want to gain 4 supplies, I would have to destroy this card. And right now I do have 3, at least 3 supplies that I could use, and which could give me this one, which is quite a bit. So I don't think I want to use this Sarah's card yet, so I'm not going to play that. I'm going to play my 3 resources, or my 3 supplies, and I'm going to purchase this resource. And when I play this card, if I get it, I get 5 resource or 5 supplies, and I have to destroy this card. So I'm going to take this one and put it in my discard pile. Okay, so I'm going to shuffle because I'm now empty on my deck draw. So I'm going to reshuffle, and I'm going to draw 5 cards. Oops. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll take a look at what I have. I've got the close call, and I do have a wound, so I'm okay. I'm not dead yet. And maybe I want to do a rest next turn. We'll see. Okay, so now we enter the reserve phase again. We're checking to see if we have 4 cards. We don't, so we're going to pull in a card here. And then we add 1 more. And now the hunt begins. The Rev-9 has no hostile cards to activate on the reserve row. So now we are going to burn 4 cards. So a resource gets destroyed. Another resource gets destroyed. An action card gets destroyed. And a munitions gets destroyed. So that's 4 cards. And that's it. So that ends the hunt. Now, if you're wondering how come I can't flee, it's because he's not damaged. One of the conditions in order for you to flee, unless a card allows you to do it, or the card text allows you to do it, you have to wait until he's damaged to flee him. But for this particular version of the Rev-9, it says if this Rev-9 is staggered, which is he has at least 5 damage, you can choose to flee him during the hunt phase. So hopefully that will show up when I get some munitions. Okay, that ends the turn. Passes to the next player. So it's coming back to me. I'm taking a look here, and right now I have all setbacks. I technically could do a rest, and I think I will. So I'm going to rest, which means I'm going to destroy this wound and get it out of my deck. Now, I believe in the rule book it says you shouldn't really put this back into the wound pile. It actually gets destroyed, but quite honestly, it doesn't matter to me. So I'll just put that back in the stack there. Okay. So I draw 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's take a look here. I do have another wound, but I do have some supply cards and preps, which is great because I definitely need to purchase some things. But we move into the reserve phase. So in this case, we're looking at it here, and we see that we do have at least 4. We never purchased anything, but we still add a card. So regardless of whether you purchased a card or not from the last player's turn, even if there's 5 cards in the reserve, you will still always add at least 1. And then we move into the hunt. He's on the hunt. No hostile cards in the reserve row, so he's going to be burning cards. Oh, so we've got a hostile card. He's going to activate this. It says you immediately flee the Rev-9. So that's an interesting card because by fleeing means that we will be putting him back into the deck. However, he has no damage. Now, typically what happens when you do flee, if he had damage, let's just say he had 5 damage, and you wanted to flee him. By doing so, you would remove all the damage tokens from, let me actually use that as an example. Let's just say he's damage 3. He's got 3 damage from maybe a previous turn. So I want to flee him. So I would take away the damage, and then based on the number of damage that I've taken away from him, I would draw the equal number of cards, which would be 3, and I would shuffle it and then place it back on top of the main deck. So that guarantees that he's going to show up again. In this case, because of that hostile card that I activated, I flee from him immediately, which means he has no damage, which means he's actually the next card to come up anyways. So because that's happened, this was during the hunt phase, he doesn't have any more cards that he's going to be burning. So we go straight to the end of turn, and now it's my turn again. So I do have a wound, but I don't care. I have lots of supply that I'd like to use. And let me take a look here. I got spare change, which I could have. I could actually have some munitions. On this one, I have 2 fight, and that might be helpful. So what I'll do is I'm going to play these 2. I'm not going to use Sarah's special card yet. I do 2 supply. I'm going to purchase this resource, which is destroy up to 2 wounds from any player's hand. I'm going to take that, put that into my discard pile, and this is a cost of 0. I'm actually going to take this one as well, because it has a 0 cost. And I discard the rest. Okay, so we go into the reserve phase. We have already 4 cards. We're going to add a 5th card, and we know what it is. It is the Rev-9, so he's coming back up. Sorry, I forgot to draw my hand. So I draw 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to do a quick shuffle. So right now, because the Rev-9 has shown up, our reserve phase is over, and he is going to go on the hunt again. Okay, so my 5th card. There we go. So there's no hostile cards on the board, so he's going to be burning cards. Oh, I gain a wound into my discard pile. This one goes to the bottom of the deck. That's 1. It's a location. Locations do not get destroyed, so this one will go to the bottom of the deck. This is the 3rd one, munitions, that gets destroyed, and a resource that gets destroyed. And that ends the hunt phase. And ends the turn. So now we go back into the player's phase. So I've got lots of resources here, which is great, but I don't really have anything that I could really benefit from. So let's just go ahead. We'll play this one. That's 1, 2, 3. So of the 3, I'll definitely take... I'll take this one. This card is worth +2 supply if the Rev-9 is on the hunt. So I get, in addition to the 2 that it has, I get 4 supply. So maybe that'll come in handy. So I will take that one. And I think I'll go ahead and I will spend this one. I'm going to spend this one. It gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I have to destroy this card. I'll use that 5 to take finishing move. This card may be played on another player's phase. If the Rev-9 is staggered and every card in the reserve is hostile, destroy it. So that's actually quite powerful. I'm not going to use Sarah's card. So that completes my turn, and I'm going to draw up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got a wound, but I'm not dead yet. And ends the play phase. So now we do the reserve phase. So we don't have 4 cards, so we're going to put 4 cards. Okay. And then we put a 5th card. Now, when the Rev-9 in the last round, when the Rev-9 showed up, the reserve phase immediately ends. But since he's already out, you would continue the reserve phase as normal. So now, because he's out there, he's going on the hunt. And in this case, he does have a hostile card that he can activate. And this is wound the current player. So I'm going to take the wound. Once he activates that, if I had multiple, I could choose in which order I want it to activate. They're all bad anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So once that's activated, it actually goes at the bottom of the deck. And that was one of his hunt cards. He still has 3 left, in which case we are going to burn from the main deck. So ammunitions gets burned, resource gets burned, action, that one's gone too. Okay, and that ends the hunt phase. So we're back to us. Not looking good. Okay, so we got our wound and we only have 2 resources. So let's see. There's really nothing I want here, so I'm going to rest and I'm going to destroy this wound from my hand and put it back. Put these in my discard. I'm going to draw up to 5 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I really need some munitions. The problem is he's been burning some of the munition cards I need, so it actually has been really challenging to get some traction here. So now we go into the reserve phase. We already have 4, so we add 1 more. It's a defense. And now the hunt phase, which the Rev-9 is going to come after us. No hostile cards to activate, so he's going to burn 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oh, munitions. There we go. Okay. And now it's our turn. So I've got not a lot here. I'm going to destroy this card for 3. Does that give me anything? Destroy this close call. Whenever you gain a card, you may place it on the top of any player's deck rather than your own discard pile. So something else I forgot to mention in terms of the cooperative play of this is if I was playing with more people, on my turn, when I purchase a card, I can actually put it in the discard pile of another player. So you can actually help each other out depending on the circumstances. Maybe they don't have enough in their supply and they need a really good card from the reserve to possibly do an attack on their turn or their next turn or future turn, and you can actually help them out. So I like that aspect too, where you can actually purchase cards for other people. So I don't think this is really going to help me. So I'm going to rest again, and I'm going to destroy my setback card. So I'm going to shuffle because I've run out of cards. I have a feeling I'm going to lose this one because I'm not getting any cards with munitions. And again, this is the luck of the draw when it comes to deck building games, right? It's hoping to get the right cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we go into the reserve phase. We already have 4, but regardless of the number, we put another card down. And now the Rev-9 is on the hunt. No hostile cards in the reserve, so he's going to burn. So 1, 2, 3, munitions, and 4, another munitions. Oh man, okay. End of turn, player phase. Here we go again. So I can get potentially up to 5. In terms of resources, I think, so this is an interesting location if you can't see it from there. This steel plant location, if the Rev-9 is staggered, destroy it. So that's really interesting because if I could stagger him, I could actually pay the cost and destroy it. But unfortunately, I'm not there yet. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to use this one yet. So I'm going to play my 3 resources, my 3 preps. I get 3 supply. I'm going to take this one. I'm going to take this one. And that's it. I'm not going to use this one yet, spare change, because I don't want to destroy this card yet. I feel like I really need some more supply value. Okay, we have 4 cards. We're going to add 1 to the reserve. And now the Rev-9 is on the hunt. No hostiles in the reserve, so he's going to be burning. Oh, here goes 1. So hostile attack, wound the player. So we'll take a wound. This goes at the bottom of the deck. And that was 1. 2 gets burned. 3, a skill gets burned. And 4, a munitions gets burned. At least I have a munitions here, so there's some hope. That's the end of the turn, and now back to my turn at the play phase. Okay, so I do have an opportunity here. This card may be played in another player's phase, so this is again where cooperative play would be nice. If it was someone else's turn and they said, "Oh, I need 2 more fight to damage or to stagger the endo or even to kill him," you could play this on an off turn to help him out. If the Rev-9 is staggered and every card in the reserve is hostile, destroy it. So that's not going to happen here. So I will play my 2 prep cards. My 2 prep cards, which gives me 2 resources, which doesn't really do much, but it does give me the opportunity to buy this pistol. So I'm going to buy this pistol and put it in, and I'll go ahead and I'll play this card. This gives me 2 fight, which means I'm going to apply the 2 fight to him. And that's it. So that ends my turn, or ends my phase, my player phase. I draw 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And we see that there's 4 cards in the reserve. We do have to add one more, and we do. And now here we have an opportunity to flee. So I've damaged him, finally. I have a choice right now. I can take the chances and see if he burns the 4 cards because there's no hostile cards here. So sometimes what may benefit you is if there are hostile cards here, you want to flee because you don't want him to activate those hostile cards. So in this case, I'm just going to show you what happens. I'm going to flee. I choose to flee him. I'm running away. I'm scared because I have a pistol and it hasn't come out yet. So what I'm going to do is, because I remove 2 damage, I take 2 cards from the main deck, and I'm going to go ahead and shuffle it in here. So there is a 1 in 3 chance that he will be appearing in the next 3 turns. And that's it. So that ends the hunt phase because I have now fled from him, and hopefully that buys me a little bit of time. So this is where there is a bit of tension. I feel there is some tension. You get a little bit of a breather. Oh, good. I can maybe relax a bit, hopefully get a card that I need to buy without him showing up again. So now we go back to my play phase, and we've got a wound card, but we do have a few things here. So he's not on the hunt. I can't use taking initiative and gain that extra, but that's okay. And we have a close call, which I could have used if he were to attack me. So I'm going to, I think, what's that? That gives me a total of 6, right? Yeah, that's not really helping me. So I'll spend, I think I'm just going to rest. I'm going to rest and destroy this wound. Okay, so I draw up to my hand. So the hope right now is during the reserve phase is that the Rev-9 does not show up. Okay, so 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Oh, that's not great, but I'll take it. Okay, so we do have at least 4 cards in the reserve, but we are going to add 1, and that's it. And thank goodness it's not the Rev-9. Back to my turn. I could do a rest because I'm not really going to gain anything out of here, but I could get supply run, which wouldn't be too bad. So I think I'll do that. I play my first aid kit and my prep for 2 supply, and I purchase supply run. Now I draw my hand. And we add a card to the reserve. It is the Rev-9. So we immediately end the reserve phase. He goes on the hunt. I cannot flee because he's not damaged. So now there are no hostile cards in the reserve row, so he's going to be burning cards. So here we go. A skill gets burned. Oh, hostile. Remove 5 damage from the Rev-9, so he doesn't have any damage. So no damage to me, and this goes to the bottom of the main deck. Here's a 3rd card, which is munitions. Great. And here we go. Attack, wound the current player. So I take a wound. Okay, that ends the hunt. Back to my turn. Actually, I guess I could have destroyed this card and draw a card. So let me reverse that so I can at least show you. So I have close call. It's a defense card. So on my turn, when he attacked me, I can destroy this card. I draw a card to avoid the damage. So I avoid that wound card. So I'm going to put that back. The hostile card continues to go into the main deck at the bottom once it's done. I'm going to destroy this card, and I'm going to draw a card from my deck. And that's it. So now we'll continue forward onto my play phase. Oh, I actually had another close call. So if there was another attack, I could have done that. So one thing that's unclear is whether or not these defense cards if it activates an attack to ignore the effect of the attack, even if it's not your turn. So I think it's per attack. So if he had 5 hostile cards or 4 hostile cards, it's 1 card per attack, which that's how I'm reading it. Okay, so I'm going to this gives me a total of 6, and again, it just doesn't give me what I want. So what I'll do is I will I will play Sarah's card. So I have to destroy this card after I play it. So that gives me a total of 6 supply. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to buy this resource, which is stash. That leaves me with 3. And I will take improvisation, which is a skill card, and I'll put that as well. So my card that had Sarah's special ability is destroyed from the game. And I'll also play this one, which is the finishing move, to do 2 damage to the Rev-9. And the rest of it is discarded. So now I draw up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. We now do the reserve phase. So there's a hostile out on the board, and we add one more, which is a munition. Okay. Oh, it's an assault rifle. Oh, that could be useful. Hopefully I can get it this round. Yes, I might be able to. Okay. So now we go into the hunt. Because he's damaged, I choose to flee because I do not want him activating this card. So I choose to flee. I remove the 2 damage. I take the 2 cards from the top of the main deck, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shuffle them in. Okay, and it goes back on the main deck. So end of turn, we go to the next player. Play phase continues, and let's see. So I'm going to first play this card. So this is a pistol card, and it says, discard a card. You may add this card to the top of your deck when you gain it. So I made a mistake there. I could have had the pistol sooner than later. I didn't read it, but that's okay. So I play this card, and I'm going to discard a card, which I'm going to discard the wound. So I get 2 fight. I'm going to apply the 2 fight to this card, and once you've applied enough fight to meet or exceed the I guess stagger value of the card, it goes to the bottom of the main deck. So you'll notice that as I'm playing, the bottom of this deck is getting more and more powerful for that Rev-9. So he's starting to thin the deck, and he's trying to also build his powers at the bottom. So I played that. I also have 2, 4, and 5, which is enough to get me my assault rifle. So you have to discard at least 1 card. For each card that you discard, you gain +1 fight. So that could be pretty useful. And that's it. I'm drawing up to my hand size again. One of the noticeable differences is you'll notice that there's no, I guess in DC deck building, equivalent of a kick card. So something that provides you some quick resources that you might need. A kick card usually would provide some extra power to help you either do attacks or to gain cards from the lineup. In this game, there are no equivalent kick cards. You really have whatever's in the reserve row. That's all you get. Fortunately, some of these resources actually provide quite a bit of supply, so it's not like you're at a disadvantage. So 4, 5, there we go. Okay, I've got a wound, but I'm okay. And now we draw up to 4, and that's it. We immediately end the reserve phase because the endo has shown up. And now he is on the hunt. And do I have a defense? I do not have a defense. So what's going to happen is no hostile cards on the reserve row. He's going to just start burning cards. So resource gets burned. 1, 2, action card, 3, and 4, which is a hostile attack. Wound the current player, so I get wounded. I take a wound, and this goes at the bottom of the deck. Okay. That was not fun. But that ends the hunt, and it is back to my turn for the play phase. I could choose to rest, but I think I'm going to go ahead and at least stagger him. Maybe I can buy some more time. So I'm going to do that. I play for 2 fight. I apply it to him. And there's nothing else I can do, so these are all going to go into my discard. And I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I forgot when I purchased that pistol to benefit from Sarah's munitions cost 1 less, but that's okay. Okay, so now we've done that. We go into the reserve phase. We're going to add a 4th card, and then, a rifle. And then we add 1 more. And on the hunt phase, we're choosing to flee So we're going to take 2 cards, shuffle them in, and hopefully buy myself a little bit of time. Okay, now it's my turn. So I'm going to get 2 supply, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 6 supply. I'm definitely getting this rifle. Put in my discard. I will definitely get spare change, which has a 0 cost. So I still have 2 resources left. And I do have some fight, but there's nothing to fight here. So I'm going to discard these. So one of the things you'll also notice that's different is as I'm purchasing it from the reserve, I am not refilling the lineup. So unlike Legendary and DC deck building, where as you purchase cards, you flip another card over and it might be a card that you want to buy if you still have some power or resources left to purchase it. But in this game, whatever you purchase, it stays. Nothing comes out until the actual reserve phase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we fill up to 4. So there's 1, and we add 1 more. Let's hope it's not. It's not. Okay, so we definitely know who this is. So now we have an opportunity. We had a little bit of a breather. And let's see. Oh, now we have the assault rifle. Oh, that's too bad. So actually, there is something interesting I'll actually show you, which is this is my opportunity to show you that I can hunt for him if I wanted to. So I do have my assault rifle. So prior to the reserve phase, I could have taken a look and say, oh, what do I want to do? And what I could have done is I could have said, oh, he didn't show up. Okay, so I'm going to continue to draw cards. I'm going to hunt for the Rev-9. And I could have drawn him out. And then I could have had him out ready to attack him, even though it'd be off turn. But I'm not going to do that. Instead, what I'll do is I'm going to play this card, First Aid, destroy up to 2 wounds from any player's hand. So I'm going to destroy this one. I get 1 supply, 2 supply, 3 supply. So I get 3 supply, which doesn't really get me much. But I will take this one, which is Aid. I'm going to discard. We definitely know what's coming up next. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 4 cards in the reserve. We add 1 more. It is the Rev-9, of course. So we immediately stop, and he goes on the hunt. No hostiles to activate, so he burns. Oh, lovely. Wound the current player once per munition in the reserve. So thank goodness there are no munitions in the reserve. If there were 4 munitions here, I'd be attacked and have 4 wound cards. So nothing happens there. That's the first card. Here's the second one. It gets burned. Another one burned. Oh, they're all at munitions too. And a location. Does not get burned. Goes at the bottom of the deck. And that's it. So now it is our turn. Oh, I do have a close call, so I could have used that. I should really pay attention to the cards that I have. We have Stash, Improvisation. Okay, so here we have a skill card. So this skill card is whenever you gain a card, you may place it on the top of any player's deck rather than their discard pile. So this is something perpetual, so I can play that, and it's an ongoing effect. There you go. And let's see. I do have 5 resources. So I'm going to spend the 5 and I'm going to get this one, Finishing Move again. I already have this one, but it is 5. So because of my skill, I can gain a card, I can place it on the top of my deck. And the rest of this does not provide me anything. Okay, so now I'm going to draw 1, 2, going to shuffle. And 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and here we go. So that was our play phase, and now we go to the reserve. We put in 4 cards, which is a hostile card and 1 more. Oh, it's 2. Okay, that's fantastic. So he's not staggered or damaged. I can't flee. So this is where he activates. So he's going to activate, and he's going to activate my choice of which one he wants to do in which order. But there are 2 hostile cards in the reserve. He's going to activate them both, and I take a wound each. So I take a wound here, and this one goes underneath the bottom, and I take another wound, and this card goes underneath. So out of the four hunt value that he has, there's still 2 more cards that need to be burned. So this one gets burned, and the munitions again gets burned. Oh man. Okay. So I've lost count, but I think I have at least 4 wound cards in my deck so far. So end of turn, we move to the next player turn for the play phase, and let's see what we can do. Oh, this is not too bad. Okay, so we're gonna let's do some damage here. We're gonna play these 2. That's 4. If the Rev-9 is staggered and every card in the reserve is hostile, destroy it. I can't, but I do get 4 damage to him. So I'm going to do that. And I have 2 resources to play, or 2 supply, but there's nothing here that can help me. So just to spread it out, I'll just do that. And now I drop to my hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's take a close look. I do not have a defense, so I think I'll be fleeing. So we're going to pull up the 4 cards and add 1 more. And hunt phase, I choose to flee. So we're taking 4 damage off of him this time. So we're going to draw 4 cards. And we're going to shuffle them in and put them back on the main deck. So that hopefully will buy me a little bit more time. Okay. And now it is my turn again. Okay, so I get a lot of resources here, which is really good. So I get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9. I get 9. Wow. So out of the 9, I will take this one, which is protection. So that's 3. So I have 6 left. I'll take grab bag, which is 4. And that leaves me with 2. I can't purchase anything else. So that all gets discarded. And we draw 5. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fill it up to 4. Add 1 more. Ooh, EMP grenade. Ooh, that's good. Okay. Oh, I definitely some stuff I want. Sawed-off shotgun. Oh, why not? Okay, so what do we got here? We go straight into the reserve. He's not on the hunt. If I wanted to, I can continue drawing cards out until he shows up or until I'm satisfied with the draw, but I'm not going to risk it. So I will just leave that as is. And now we go back to the play phase. I could choose to rest because I do. If you see, I have fight, but I really want maybe that sawed-off shotgun, which I can. I'm definitely going to do it. So I'm going to play spare change. When I play this card, I have to destroy it. That gives me 2 supply. I get a 3rd supply. I'm definitely buying sawed-off shotgun. And because I can, of my skill, when I gain a card, I can place it on top. So I'm going to place it on top of my deck. And the rest of these are just fight, and I have nothing to fight here. So I'm just going to discard these. Okay, so we draw up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I do have a wound. I do have a defense card, so that might help me. So now we have 4. Draw 1 more. And that's it. We're going to go into, we'll skip the hunt phase because the Rev-9 is not out there. And now it's back to my turn. I could rest because I really want this EMP grenade. Because it says if the Rev-9 is staggered, destroy it. Add this card to the reserve. But it's 8. It cost me 8. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to rest. So I'm going to destroy or put back that card. And I discard this. I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got at least 4, and we add 1 more. Ooh, okay. So now it's back. No hunt because the Rev-9 is not out there, so it's back to me. And let's see. I do have enough. I'm going to play the aid, and I'm going to play spare change. Is it worth it, or should I just play the aid? I'll just play aid. So I get 2 supply, which can purchase this munition, which is a crude weapon, and the rest I discard. I don't really care for that one, so. Okay, so my deck is empty, so I'm going to shuffle it. hopefully I can pull out some quality munitions, because I know the Rev-9 is coming. And again, that's an interesting aspect of this, is I know he's coming. He's in the top 5 cards. So he's somewhere there and he's looking for me, and there's a good chance that he's going to come out. So I draw 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I've got at least 4. I add 1 more, and there he is. So we immediately stop the reserve. We move into the hunt. He has no damage, cannot flee. Do I have a defense? I do not have defense, but I definitely have some ammunition and fight to fight him on my next turn. So no hostile cards in the reserve row for him to activate, so he's going to burn cards. Skill gets burned. That's 1. We have a hostile card. He activates it. He's going to wound me 1 into my discard pile. And this one gets placed to the bottom of the deck. That was a second card. Third card gets burned, and fourth card gets burned. And again, they're munitions. Oh, that's just gross. Okay, back to my play phase. What do I want to do? I have 1 prep. Protector. This is a skill. The first attack to resolve each turn treats you as the current player. Well, that doesn't really benefit me. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to play Rifle, and I have to discard a card, which will be this one. And I'm also playing Crude Weapon. So that's 4 damage that I'm assigning to the Rev-9. That gets discarded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we go into reserve. There's at least 4 in the row, so we add 1 more. And now we're on the hunt phase. We're going to flee. So I remove 4 damage, 4 cards, and I'm going to shuffle them in. I'm just going to give it 1 more. I might be powerful enough to take him on the next round. Okay. So now we go back to my play phase. Okay. Oh, I guess I could have kept him out there. Oh, darn, I didn't look. That's okay. So I'm going to rest and destroy the setback card. And that's it. I'm going to draw 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I'm going to rest again, actually. Okay, so we have at least 4, and we're going to add 1 more, and it's a hostile. Okay, no hunt phase. It becomes my turn. I could play... Yeah, I think I will. 1, 2, 3, 4. Draw 2 cards. 4. Oh, I have a second wound in my hand. 4. 5, 6. Destroy this card. So I destroy this card. So I have 6 resources. Not enough to get this EMP grenade, but I will take this resource for 4. And my 2 wounds go back into my discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's at least 4. We add 1 more. Ooh, not good. And let's take a look. There's no hunt phase, so here we go. Destroy a card in the current player's hand, then you may draw a card. I don't think I want to do that one. But I'll play the finishing move, which allows me to have 2 fight. I'm going to apply that to this card, because the Unstoppable is remove 5 damage from the Rev-9, which I don't care. So this one gets eliminated, because I have enough fight to defeat it. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 for my supply, which really doesn't do anything. I think I'll take this skill, which is an alert. On your turn, the hunt phase resolves before the reserve phase instead of after. So it really depends if I want to play that. I guess in that way, if there is no hostile cards in the reserve, you might save yourself. So, but we'll see. Okay, drop the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 in the row. Add 1 more. Okay, not bad. I need munitions here. Okay, we've got a wound. We've got 2, 3. Oh, that's not bad. Okay, so I'll play this one, which destroy up to 2 wounds from any player's hand. So I'm going to destroy this and put this back in the supply. So that's 1 supply. 2, 3, 4, 7. Oh, so close. 7. So I'll take a normal life. That leaves me with 5. And I'll take this one. Improvise. 1, 2. Three, 4, 5. Do I have... Okay, I've got quite a bit here. So maybe I can hopefully do something useful with it. Okay, we've got 4. Add 1 more. And that's it. Now it's my turn, because he's not on the hunt. So let's see. You may choose a munition in the reserve and add to your hand. Ooh. Ooh, okay. Add it to my hand. Destroy it at the end of your play phase. Oh, okay, so I don't want to use that one yet. So I'm going to play pistol. I need to discard a card. I will discard this one. It gives me 2 fight, which is enough to take this hostile card out. And I have a more fight, but it's not necessary to play. I get 2, 3. So 3, really nothing that I can buy. So that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 4. Add 1 more. And there he is. He's out. Okay. So reserve phase ends because he's shown up. And I have no defense. So here we go. He's going to go on the hunt. No hostile cards in the reserve to activate, so he's burning cards. That's 1. That's 2. Again, munitions. Oh, man. Wound the current player. So I take a wound. This goes at the bottom. That was 3 and 4, which is a skill that gets burned. Okay. Back to my turn. I have 5. Oh, that's too bad. I could have used this location. Okay, I'm going to play finishing move, and I'm going to do 2 damage to him. I have 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6, which I'll get grab bag. And that's it. Oh, sorry. The card, which one did I get? I got grab bag. That goes on the top of my deck. Sorry, I forgot my skill. So I draw 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have a defense, which is good. Okay, so we add 4 and add 1 more. Hunt phase, no hostile, but I can choose to flee. But I think I'm going to take my chances here because do I want to keep him out or stagger or have him flee again? No, let's leave that. Okay, here we go. So I'm not fleeing. He is damaged, but I choose not to flee. So there are no hostile cards in the reserve row, so he's going to burn 4 cards. So a location doesn't get burned, so it goes in the bottom. That's 1. 2 munitions. 3 another munitions. And 4 munitions. Oh, all my munitions are getting burned. That's terrible. Okay, back to my turn. I'm playing this card, which does 2 additional damage to him. And I'm going to get 1, 2, 3, 4. I get to draw 2 cards. 4. Oh, 4. I'm going to do this for 3 more damage. That means that is what, 7? So that's 5, 6, 7. I have to discard a card, which I will discard this card, and I do this one. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 to spend, and I will take Place all the cards in the reserve at the bottom of the Fate deck. No, I don't want to because I want to keep this one out here. So I don't want to use that one. So I'm going to buy this one for 3, and I really don't think there's anything else. Okay, so even though it says here, if this Rev-9 is staggered, you must flee during the hunt phase, which is now coming up now. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 4. We add one more, and it's right there. But in the hunt phase, because he is staggered, we have to flee. So this is 7. So I remove 7 damage. I pull 7 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And I'm going to tuck him in one of these, and I'm going to shuffle him. And because he's back in here, he doesn't activate, so the hostile card that's sitting in the reserve does not attack me, or does not activate. It only activates when the Rev-9's out there. Okay, there we go. Back to my turn. I do have a wound. And let's see, maybe I want to rest. I think I'm going to rest. Yep, I rest to destroy this wound. Goes here. I draw 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. There's 4. I add one more. And let's see, do I have anything here that... Nope, this is not going to do me any good. So it's no hunt because the Rev-9's out. It's my turn. So I'm going to look at... Let's see here. I'm going to do... let's see, can I do grab bag? Do I have enough? I might. So grab bag, I draw 2 cards. 1... Oh, I might have enough. 2. Oh, that's my second wound. So I have 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, and I gain 1 supply for each resource played. So 8, including this one. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have 12 supply. So I'm definitely taking the EMP grenade. And I will put this at the top of my deck. And that was 12, right? 8. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So out of that, I still have 4 left, which I'm not going to get anything from there. So that's it. Now I draw 1, 2, 3. It's too bad I didn't have any fight. I could take care of some of those hostile cards that are on the reserve, but that's okay. I'm taking my chances here. This might be an opportunity for me to do a hunt, but we'll see. Okay, 3, 4, 5. There we go. Oh, okay. So, okay, this might work for me. Okay, so right now we're in the reserve phase. So let's try something. This is my first time doing it. So there's 4. We add one more. It is not the Rev-9, so we can continue adding cards until we are we're content. So we're going to draw this one. So I'm just going to put... Well, I don't know how much space I have. Yeah, I have lots of space for you guys to see. So I'm going to add another card. It's not a Rev-9. I can do it again. Okay, so here we have another one. Wound the current player once per munition in the reserve. That doesn't bother me because there are none. Okay, I'm going to do it again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it down here just so that you guys can see the cards. And I'm going on the hunt now. I am looking for him. Okay, I can keep on doing this until I feel... Okay, there he is. So he came out. He's on the board. We immediately stop the reserve phase and we immediately go into the hunt phase. Now in the hunt phase, he's activating again. His hunt value is 4. He's going to be activating 4. So we're going to take 2 wounds. This doesn't do anything because there are no munitions in the reserve. So I'm going to take 2 wound cards and put them in my discard. These 2, including this one, is going at the bottom. Okay. So we're just going to realign these. Okay. Now, technically, I did have close call, so maybe what I'll do is I'll destroy this, and I draw a card, and I didn't take one of those wounds. Sorry about that. I forgot about that, that ability. Okay, so that ends the hunt. It is now my turn. So I might have enough to actually win this one. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play this card, which is the assault rifle. I discard at least one card. For each card you discard, gain one fight. So I do this one, and I'm going to discard this prep card because I don't need it. I discard it, so that's 3. So I do 3 damage to him. I'm going to play Crude Weapon, which gives me a 4th. I'm going to play this one, Finishing Move, which gives me an additional 2. So that is now 6. So I'm going to take this out, 6. So as of right now, I have met or exceeded his staggered value, and I have the EMP grenade. If the Rev-9 is staggered, destroy it, and you add this card to the reserve. So this gives me an extra 1. So now he has a total of 7, and based on the ability, it is staggered. I get to destroy it, and I would add this card to the reserve. I win because I've met this condition. Now, the other thing I could have done is if I had staggered him and I had enough supply, I could actually activate this location card, which says if the Rev-9 is staggered, you would destroy it. So that is another potential win condition. So in this situation, I have destroyed the Rev-9. Sarah has pulled out one-handed shotgun with one wounded arm, busted it right into his chest and said, "Hasta la vista," and he's dead. So there you go. That is Terminator Dark Fate, the deck building game. A very interesting twist, I feel, to your traditional deck building system. I gotta tell you, I do like it. I think if you ignore sort of the movie that it was and just go along with the Terminator theme, I feel that threat every time he gets shuffled back into the deck, or if I'm fleeing him, I just need to buy some time. He goes back in the deck, and depending how much I've wounded him, that really will dictate how much of a breathing room I have to build up my munitions or build up my skills or my supplies to hopefully encounter him again. And in this last run, just my last turn, I knew I had the cards and I wanted to find him. So that's something different. I'm expediting that process. I'm drawing him out. And yeah, I took a couple wounds, but that's not a big deal because I had enough firepower to take him down. I knew it. So I like that aspect. I like there's almost a strategy to it, sort of a tactical decision to say, I'm not going to wait it out. I've got enough and I'm going to go after him. So I like that. At the same time, I like the fact that if you take a look at this bottom deck right now, this would have been his. So at some point, this would have been his deck. And that would have been the reserve line. And every single one of those would have activated. And it could have saturated my discard pile with wound cards. So that there's a very, very high chance that on my next draw, I would have 3 wounds to kill me off. I like the fact that with your character, not only do you have their character ability, but they have a unique card that you can play that it only pertains to them and is unique to them. I like that. Tracking damage with using tokens, I think that's kind of a gimmick, but you know what? I'll take it. These are actually kind of nice. Probably might go well with some of the other games I have. The difference in difficulty, you can definitely scale the difficulty by putting in a different level Rev-9 card. One of the variations is you include all of them if you want, if you're that crazy. You can also maybe pull out some of the defense cards or thin the deck a little bit more so that you have a higher chance that you may run right down to the Rev-9's deck of hostile cards at the bottom. So I think there's a lot of options to play this game. I think from a cooperative standpoint, I haven't played it with anybody else, but I like the idea of there are certain cards that pertain to playing off turn. So you can help someone either provide an assist, or the defense cards. You can actually do a defense on another player's turn. So if the wound text says that, or if the attack is specific to the current player, another player could drop a defense card to protect that player. Alternately, you can purchase cards and put it in someone else's discard pile or potentially on top of their own deck. I like that. I like that there is a real cooperative aspect to this game. and it feels like you would be working more as a team to try to take down the Rev-9. I hope you enjoyed this playthrough. I think that it comes in a pretty small form. There's definitely no expansions or anything like that. It's a one-time, one-off deck building game based on the movie. But I have to say that right now I am enjoying it, and I think that it is a nice take on the deck of the many or several deck building games that I have and the ones I've read out there. This is something that adds a nice twist that I can see myself playing, especially solo, quite often. So until next time, stay bored.